Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today's video, you've already clicked on it, you've seen the title, but it's going to be about one of the classes that I'm taking at Harvard right now. The class is called Digital Fabrications, and really quick backstory, I was terrified to take this class, like absolutely terrified. I actually wrestled with it a lot. I considered dropping it. It's a hefty time commitment, but beyond that, this class's premise is based on the makerspace and creating, but learning through creating. All of that to say, it was quite scary. I come from a very liberal arts background in the humanities. I majored in English. I'm very comfortable writing an essay and reading and critically analyzing things, but when it comes to just like using my hands to actually make things and laser cut and 3D print and solder like copper so that we can make electrical circuit boards, and using Google boards and learning processing and learning coding, like all of that stuff, girl, I'm scared. And but I took the class. So I'm in the class. I decided, like, if I'm here at Harvard for a year, why not take a challenge and go for it? So I went for it, and I would say that it is probably the most constant stressor of my life at this moment. Every single week there is like a new project, and there's just a steep learning curve of having to pick up all these skills. There was a project that I just completed for this class that I wanted to talk about. I wanted to share it with you in case there are other people who are interested in this, and also for me because I'm doing so much right now, like constantly overstimulated, that I actually have no space to reflect on anything that I'm doing thus far. It's been over 2 months. I'm almost a quarter of the way done with my year at this school, and I quite frankly am not sure how I'm actually synthesizing all this information. So this is such a good way and such a good space for me to just throw up everything that I'm learning. So let's get down to it. For this project, every other project before this had been more of an individual project where it's like laser cutting a name tag or like making a creature, etc. But 3 weeks ago, it was the start of our toy. And this was where it got real, because we were actually designing a learning toy for a real life kid. That's like a huge burden. I would say that's a pretty hefty assignment. And so I had a partner, her name was Anita, and the two of us, she's in the arts and education program and I'm in the technology innovation program, but it really worked well together, I think, because this is such a creative process of designing for learning. We got the pleasure, usually each group only had one kid, but we had the pleasure of having two. These 7-year-old female twins, their names are Kaylin and Emily. They are in the 2nd grade currently. They are the kindest, sweetest, the loveliest kids. I have honestly never met kids like this before. They're so kind, so polite. The interview with them was a breeze just because they were so willing to answer our questions. We found out so much about them. They love Junie B. Jones. They love the Magic Rainbow Fairy series, which I also know about. My sister also was into them, like we grew up with them as well, and so to connect with them on that level, they have all these different fairies that they love. There's hundreds of books in this canon, by the way, and they were just telling us about all these different fairies and all the different books that they have, and they rent from the library. They're super active girls. They like zip line. They're super adventurous, but they also are really artistic. They love reading and writing and journaling, and they're 7-year-olds, and they're already kind of like, they're just so creative and outward thinking. It really brought me back to when I was 7 and to connect with them, like, it was so good. We had an interview, that was the first step, and then we had to ideate. We had to brainstorm, we had to come up with sketches and design, and then present that to the class and get some feedback from various people, and then incorporate that feedback as we work towards our final product. So this was a 3-week long stretch, and I will say I was quite stressed during these 3 weeks, because I think it's one thing to make something for like a grade for yourself, for an assignment, right? And it's a totally different thing to make something that you know is going to be used and is going to be remembered and going to be a part of a child's life. Right off the bat, we knew that we needed our toy to be collaborative. We needed a toy that was going to have a low floor, so it wasn't going to be hard to start playing with, but it had to have a high ceiling because there were 2 girls, potentially more, going to be playing with this toy. We kind of went back and forth a lot, Anita and I, and we decided, why not use something that they already know, that they're familiar with, something that they love and they hold near and dear to their heart. aka the Rainbow Magic series. And why don't we create a spin-off of that to create a designing set for them. So it's like a building block set. If you played with Legos, it's like you can create your own structures and stuff, but we really wanted it narratively to center around their Rainbow Fairy world. I know in the interview that Kaylin and Emily both have their very specific favorite fairies. Holly the Christmas Fairy, Emily the Emerald Fairy, and beyond that I made a couple of other fairies that correspond to some of their interests in different aspects of their life. So there's a tap dancing fairy, they do tap dance. There's a jazz fairy, they do jazz. They just started playing the piano, so I made a piano fairy. I made an ice cream fairy because they love ice cream, and that was another point of connection between me and the girls. I mean, these are all fairies that exist with their own backstories and context. It was just a matter of taking those designs and laser cutting them onto plywood, painting them, and making them like little figurines that they could play with and use to like navigate within the world that they build. So let's go to the building block aspect. Anita and I designed a bunch of different walls and houses and towers and different structures with the same kind of interlocking slat. So you can snap these pieces together. They're made out of plywood. We tried a bunch of different things. We used cardboard, we used acrylic because we thought it would look more polished, but in the end we went with plywood because it's just so flexible and durable. And we thought, why not give the girls the option to customize their own fairy village and castle? So with that in mind, we also made vinyl stickers. So Anita actually went and like designed the stickers and made them, like cut them out. And so now we also included the sticker sheets in their box for them so that they can decorate the villages the way they want. Anyway, back to the main thing. So we wanted to create this toy that was going to allow them to be like little architects where they can design their own village, make a world, and then use the fairy characters and the different other villain characters that I made to really dwell within that world, if that makes sense. The challenge for me though was actually on brainstorming ways to make this more variable. I wanted to have as high of a ceiling as possible, and it's one thing to be like, girls, you can create whatever you want, you can be creative and make whatever story you want, and then there's another thing of like giving them some sort of scaffolding or some guided sets of tools for them to start building narratives. That's kind of where my mind was at. And so if you watch the Wheel of Fortune, I was thinking about like the wheels that like Vanna White spins. Is that her name? The like the little prize wheel things, and I wanted to create like a bunch of different narrative combinations so that they can spin the wheels like a game, and then whatever combination of story they get, they have to like play that out and build the village based on that kind of scenario. Long story short, it was a failure. I spent many a day just like stressing out a lot. In between classes, every chance I get, in between work, I would like jump up into the lab, into the makerspace to make things. I was there every weekend. I frankly had no life. To be honest, I had no life, and that was fine because I was making something for these really sweet and beautiful girls. But the problem was I just didn't know how to make the wheels spin. I wanted them to all spin independently of each other so that the girls could get a much higher variability of narrative pieces. And I wasn't sure how to make it, first of all, aesthetically pleasing, but also easy for them to use. So if you see, there were many trials and errors. It was easy to make one plywood like wheel, spinny wheel that the kids could like use an acrylic arrow and like kind of tap it for it to spin. I asked my brother, I asked people in my TIE program and cohort who are not in the class. Shout out to all the boys who sat down with me that one day in the library and was like helping me because I was stressing out. Thank you to my brother for calling me out, for calling me dumb, and saying that it was quite a simple mechanical engineer thing. But boy, I didn't major and I'm not an engineer. I don't know how to do this stuff. He called me dumb.
I didn't say you were dumb. When did I say you were dumb? Well, I never said you were dumb. I just said I would have done this.
Dumb.
You would have helped each other, and then you went like this and expected them to move. Forgot that friction existed in this world.
I thought if you put 3 arrows and stack it, because 1 arrow works, so if I flick it, then it would spin. But he just called me dumb.
that hard.
All in all, I feel a lot more empowered and a lot more equipped now to tackle these kinds of problems. A lot of it was finding out different mechanisms of movement, and that's something that I've never done before. In the end, guys, I'm glad to say that it was successful. I was able to get it to work after many, many hours. So to wrap up the story, we would now have to go to Toy Giving Day, which was this past Tuesday, so a couple days ago. I had the honor and privilege of my class putting on this toy giving ceremony where we invited all the families and all the children to come, and as a class we were able to present in our teams our toys to the kids, and it was one of the most moving moments of my time here, hands down. Coming here to give an actual tangible product to a child who is now going to use that toy and play with it in his or her life. Like, it was a pretty momentous moment. When giving to them, you're like scared, you're like nervous that they're not gonna like it. At the same time, you're just so relieved that it's over, and also kind of proud that you were even able to give them a product.
That contains a bunch of your favorite fairies.
Yeah, so Kaylin and Emily, if you ever stumble upon this video in the future, I hope you know that so much of my heart and time went into it, but also just to be able to see your reactions, that was huge. And I think that's so formative to me and grounding me right now in my journey here at Harvard. I think I can speak for most people at the ed school when I say that we all have a huge heart for wanting to change education for the better, and it really starts with it starts because we care, and we care because we've had these experiences with children and with the learners that we've encountered in the past, and really we all came here with some sort of mission or some sort of desire to help and to transform. And so it's just been good. I'm making this video. Thank you for listening. But I'm really making it so that I don't forget why I'm here at this school, what I'm doing. And I got feedback. Actually, their father messaged me. He works at the Office of Student Affairs at Harvard. But he emailed me and Anita and told us that the girls were in love with it. Like, they can't wait to come back from school, and all they want to do is play with the fairy game. They call it the Rainbow Fairy game. So this is actually, they made us thank you cards. Again, they are actually the sweetest girls I think I've ever met. This one says, "Dear Sophie and Anita, thank you so much for the awesome Rainbow Fairy game. I love it. See you around." Smiley face emoji. Love, Emily. And then Kaylin wrote, "Thank you so much. I love the new Rainbow Fairies toy. I love it. Hope to see you soon." Like, seriously, going to treasure these things forever. I am so moved. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed my storytelling sit down time. Let me know if you want any more like Harvard course related content or anything to do with what I'm learning about the field of education. Like, let me know if this is something that is interesting to people. Thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!